Welcome to a Sweet Savor Bible School. Thank you for watching. My name is James Reinarz, and this is a clip from a Zoom class I taught recently on the history of Christian hymns, with a focus on singing devotionally. There were several parts to the class, but these clips are just of the lecture portion. More information can be found in the description.
Okay, now we'll look at his hymns. Look at their style. One thing about Horatius Bonar's hymns, you can just show his just real mastery as a man of God and a scholar, that he writes with such a broad range of topics. Some hymn writers kind of have a specialty. You know, we looked at Frances Havergal last week, and she definitely has a niche when it comes to consecration and giving herself to yourself to the Lord. Not that she didn't write about other things, but she has a large amount of hymns in one topic. And if you look at Horatius Bonar's hymns in the back of your hymnal, you can go to the on the front page. It's page 657 if you want to look. You can see his hymns go from 1 to 515. They go all over the hymnal. And there's not really a gap of several hundred numbers where he's not there. He's had great hymns on the Trinity, great hymns on the Lord's table, great hymns on encouragement and trials, great hymns on the Lord's return, just really versed in a wide swath of Christian truth. But more than writing on a bunch of different topics of Christian truth, he was able to do it with a delicate sentiment that is just really endearing, and has quickly made him one of the most important and famous hymn writers in church history. This is a quote from John Julian's giant dictionary of hymnology. It's a little florid, so I have some ... in there that I'll try to paraphrase. But speaking of Horatius Bonar's hymns, they reveal extreme susceptibility to the emotional power which the phases of natural and of spiritual life exercise. One thing, and this is the paraphrase that Bonar's hymns show, is just an awareness that what goes on in the natural life actually shapes and fosters the spiritual life. And actually, because of that connection between natural life events shaping your spiritual life, that shows that that's even the purpose of natural life events. And I'll get back to the quote. They are handled for this purpose with greater delicacy of touch than in the only hymns, and with less conscious purpose than in the Christian year. So you can see John Julian is kind of comparing him to something we've heard about only hymns, right? We have not talked about the Christian year. I believe that's a hymn. Okay, so there was no hymn singing in Scotland. And how could Scotland produce one of the best hymn writers ever? That is really a curious, tragedy, sadness experience of Horatius Bonar's life. He was a gifted poet and wrote hymns throughout his adulthood. And published them very frequently throughout his adulthood, but they were never something that his own congregation agreed with, never something that they considered admissible. One resource used that. They considered them inadmissible in a Sunday meeting. And he never was appreciated as a hymn writer from his own peers, brothers and sisters that he was shepherding, own congregation he was serving. They knew him primarily as a really great teacher, a great pastor, great book writer. He wrote many spiritual books, and many of them are in print even to this day. But they did not think of him as a hymn writer. From nearly the beginning of his life, his hymns were admired by others and spread abroad. And his name was known with his other publications. And it wasn't until he began to travel that he realized that we're singing his hymns all the time and really appreciating them. So you can just imagine the kind of bittersweet tension in his heart, in his experience, as he, what is now very much considered like his legacy. We remember him primarily as a hymn writer, was not something he really experienced. He never even heard his own hymns sung on a Sunday in the building that he spent all his weekend. So he has a great hymn called Sometimes the Clouds. It's kind of a reflection on his life, a walking through his whole life. And you can tell there's a lot of struggles with people's opinions, even fightings amongst Christians. Could refer to what he went through with the Great Disruption, could refer to just many controversies over these kind of things as well. Interesting. They were so sold on Psalms. You know, much of England broke away from the Psalms with Isaac Watts, but Scotland really held out for a long time. Okay, lastly, he, more than anyone, wrote songs about the Lord's return. These are the hymns of hope. One of his friends we had that slide of Thomas Chalmers, William Burns, there was one named Edward Irving. He was invited to teach at similar prophecy conferences as John Nelson Darby, and other early Plymouth Brethren. And they were studying the Bible and kind of dawning on them for the first time an attitude in the Bible that had been maybe an understanding had been lost at least for a few hundred years regarding the Lord's imminent return, coming at any time before what Revelation 20 calls the millennial kingdom. What was very popular at that time for a long time from the Catholic Church through Luther and many was either what's called amillennial or postmillennial. And those basically mean, amillennial means when Revelation talks about 1,000-year kingdom, just consider that a spiritual number. The kingdom is right now in the church with the Holy Spirit. Postmillennial is that the Lord will not return until after the millennial kingdom. So you're looking actually that those theologies are looking to church, especially in hand with the state, with government, to reform the world, to set up the kingdom that Christ will come back to inherit. But the Bible very much shows an attitude, wow, the Lord may come as a thief in the night at any time. He could come before we end world hunger. He could come sooner. And that is the Lord coming for his own before he sets up something of his millennial kingdom. And that was just dawning on people afresh, like they had never seen it before in the mid 1800s. And Bonar, more than others, put the heart, the longing of that truth into his hymns. The Plymouth Brethren, who popularized the teaching between England and America, they wrote many songs about waiting for the Lord's return, but none really with the same kind of intense longing that Bonar was able to have. So we will touch that in our singing. We will go to our breakout room to sing just a great example of this kind of hymn. In our extra credit, which we'll talk about at the end, there's another hymn like this, but I was flipping through just the titles of his volumes, Hymns of Faith and Hope, and so many songs are about either the pilgrim's journey or waiting for the Lord or come Lord or why aren't you here yet, and the poetry is just so delicate, sweet, and it's just really rare. But there's many hymns like this. So we will have maybe 12 plus minutes in our breakout room.
Well, that's the end of our section. You can learn more about a Sweet Savor Bible School on our website, link in the description. There you can find course descriptions and find out how you can join the next class. And for now, I'll say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. May Jesus bless you, and may we become a savor that is pleasing to our God.